Good morning, Sarah Hevela.
Who's this? How did you get this number?
I'm starring in a horror movie, as you just told me. So I'm here to haunt you.
Well, it's a pretty little horror movie. You have these nice muted colors, like there's the blue of your shirt and the dark pink, the kind of slate gray with the pink of your hair. You know, you could say that I was just teasing our listeners, but we've started showing our
Yep,
podcast.
yep,
We film it now,
that's right. So we
like
actually
sex.
wait a second, speak for yourself. Um, yeah, and I also, in order to be a good soldier here, I bought like a little camera, which there's like all these settings, and I set it, and first it looked like I had radiation burns. So bear with us while we're trying to figure out how to look gorgeous for you guys at 7:30 in the morning, which it is here in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah, I'm such a mess. I woke up at 3 and I'm so tired. I'm tired all the time. I've been waking up at 3 to finish a project, and it's like this incredible spate of time because like 3 to 7 is pretty much just like that's good. But it
Well, yeah,
means that when everybody is just kind of like waking up, like creaky, I'm like, I'm tired.
this is I don't know if it's probably a pretty well-known secret. When I decided to write a little novella when Tava was still in preschool, um, I would get up at 3:30 in the morning and write, or maybe 4, and write for 2.5 hours because there's nobody else bothering you. There's nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
you could be messing around on Twitter or doing something, but you don't. You just sort of try to carve out that time, and then you can get on with the rest of your day. So,
I have a friend that does this, and then she times her emails to, like, go at 8 a.m. or whatever,
oh, so
and
she
I don't
doesn't
do
see
that.
him. So she
Yeah,
doesn't
I don't
see.
do that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
people are
yeah.
always writing me back like, "Why the hell did you respond to this at 3:30 in the morning?"
Well,
And
it's none
I'm
of their
like, "Well,
business.
I work a night shift."
There
I
you go.
do have visitors, though. I have a little possum, and I named the possum after a wayward boyfriend I once had. And then the possum, I think, was a she because now I have little tiny piglet
Oh.
possums falling behind the other possums, and they walk by every morning. And I say hi. They say hi. They actually don't say anything to me. Possums are the ultimate chill guy, girl. They're just like, whatever.
Uh,
And it's nice.
when I was pregnant with Tavi, we lived in this crazy little house in Hollywood. I'm actually going to get back to that later in the podcast. And the floor was sinking, and it was sort of there were like 6 inches on under the bed on one side, and
6 inches
I
of what?
like space between the bottom of the wall
Oh,
and the
never mind.
floor
I don't care
because it
now.
just like was sinking into the ground. And I was, trying to sleep one night and I heard all this scuttling and a possum had moved in under the bed and was having
Holy
babies.
shit.
And I was like, I think it's time to move.
Oh
So we
my
did.
god,
We
moved
moved.
in under the bed is a
Yeah,
bold move
under
even
the
for a
bed.
possum.
Yeah. So I was like,
You
yeah,
know
that's
those
enough of that.
children's books that were always like, "The shy, cute little possum."
No, they're
No,
gross.
those things are
They're awful.
fearless.
They're
They are
awful.
not scared of
They're
us.
awful.
No, I used to be super scared of possums because 'cause they're kinda mangy and scraggly, and I've really come around on the possums. I think they're cool. They can't help it that they're a little mangy, like they're survivors out there. Like they're friggin' scrappers.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not a big fan. I see them dead on the side of the road a lot. Like wherever you are, there's always dead possums on the side of the road, and they're still leering, even in death. They're just leering at you. So just gonna pass on the possums.
You've got time. This is gonna be like a possum rom-com.
Yeah.
You're gonna end up with a possum in your house, curled up in your bed.
Sarah, you have called this meeting of the
Oh,
Smoke Girls at an early hour
yeah, I'm
because
sorry about that.
you had something very important you wanted to talk about. So I figured we'd come here and talk about it.
Nancy,
Yes.
there's a lot of things happening in the court of sexual justice.
So I've heard.
Are you ready to go on trial?
I would
No, you're not gonna go
no.
on trial. That would be wouldn't I brought your exes here.
It'd be like when Trump dragged in, Bill Clinton's former lovers and accusers, when he
Oh
was
my
don't
god.
you remember this when he was
When
debating Hillary? This is one of the
shit, did he do that?
Oh, yeah,
That's
so
a
they're
baller
about to go
move.
and in the front row were, like, 4 or 5
Like
of Bill
Juanita
Clinton's
Broderick and
yeah, just sitting in the
Pa
front row. I mean oh god,
I
well,
can't stand that guy, but
no,
he
I'm
has a certain quality, and nobody can deny it.
he is
He's one of the great entertainers of all times. God bless us that he's our president.
okay, are we gonna be we're talking
No,
about
no,
Ben
no. Court of
yes,
sexual
yes,
justice. Court of
yes.
sexual justice. What do you wanna learn about first? Do you wanna learn about Sean Combs, aka P. Diddy's trial that just started this week in Manhattan, or do you wanna learn about Gerard Depardieu being
Oh.
convicted of sexual assault?
Oh, was he convicted of sexual assault? Oh, well, let's talk about him because here we are. You got me all like, I didn't know that. Wow, in France. Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you have to wake up early to get convicted in France,
Yeah.
right? Of sexual assault. Although the New York Times story that I read that we'll put in the episode notes makes the point that this moment uh seems to be the long overdue, what's the word? Reckoning over the country's obsession with seduction, the uncritical adulation of its artists, and the stalling in France of the Me Too movement.
Okay, the one
Okay.
thing that I was recalling that I know that they've talked about on the 5th column, bingo, was that the age of consent in France used to be, like, absurdly low.
Like
Like,
13.
okay, 12,
Yeah.
it's okay." So
Yeah.
that's a bit like, yeah, okay, okay,
Yeah, it was really interesting because, like, during Me Too, when it was just, like, really burning in America, there would be these controversies in France where it would be like, you know, this memoirist wrote all these stories about sleeping with 12-year-olds, and he was an international star and everybody
yeah,
loved him. We're starting to think maybe that wasn't a good idea, and it's like, wow.
12.
I mean, I made that age up, but
No, but
there's a story very close to that, and I don't know what the age of consent was. It might have been 16 by the time Me Too rolled around, but historically Europe was just much more European about this. For a long time the age of consent in Germany was 13, and you know, other places it was 14, 15, 16. So we were, presumably or by comparison,
why do you think that is?
Very
Yeah, I
Puritan.
was just gonna say, very Puritan, but why God, that's interesting to think about that where that came from, because as we know, and as we've talked about a lot, I mean, people, depending on who you are, of course, but people do, become sexually active at 14 and 15. It doesn't mean that they're getting married necessarily at that age, but they're exploring. And then to make it, like, illegal in America at 18, like, where does that come from? And why
It's
are we just, like, upping that age now?
Oh yeah, I swear we're gonna get to the Combs thing, and I don't think we'll have time to go into Harvey Weinstein
Okay.
because that is still ongoing. It's going to
Yeah,
last for a few more weeks, and I think we'll take a whole episode later on
yeah.
to discuss that. But that's one where a 19-year-old is involved, and I mean, the number 19 keeps getting floated out there like it's illegal, and it's very much
No,
not.
it's not.
And so your point about where we draw the line of consent, I think, is so interesting, because what is nature's line of consent? What's the demarcation that nature gives us? It's your period. It's
Menstruation.
menarche.
Yeah, so that's, like, 12.
So that's depending on who you
Yeah,
are. That's
yeah.
somewhere between 10 if you're little Sarah Hepala and you take that unlucky draw, or you're 14, 15. But that's about where it goes, and that's when the body says, "Okay, we're ready. We're ready to have
Yeah.
children."
Yeah.
But culture keeps pushing back that line.
Well, another I mean, I can tell you as a parent, and anybody that's a parent out there knows that a couple of years ago, they're like, "Oh, your kids can stay on your insurance till they're 26." It's sort
What?
of Oh, yeah. It's sort of pushing up the age when you need to be adult. I hate the term adulting. I think it's just nonsensical and ridiculous. But, like, the age where we expect children to sort of stand on their own, has just been being pushed up and up. Yeah, your children can now stay on your health insurance until they're 26.
I think I could only stay till 21
I
on
don't
mom and dad's
I
insurance.
I don't really remember. I don't think I was on their
Maybe it was
insurance
25
by the
though.
no, I certainly wasn't. I didn't have insurance at all. I mean, I think maybe in college I had it through college, but I don't think I was on my parents' insurance after the age of 18. No, at all. No way.
I think it was 21 for me.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
whatever.
that's really
Yep.
interesting. I mean,
Yep.
yeah, so we just keep nudging it up,
Yes.
and
Yep.
then so how does the culture really the epicenter of kind of Pepe Le Pew seduction, you know? Remember that cartoon?
Yes, I do.
Which that got, like, branded as, like, a date he's, like, a date rapist in the Me
Oh,
Too
come
era.
on.
You would see these, like, "We need" whatever. No whatever, they were well-intentioned, I'm not gonna make fun of them. Okay,
Ooh.
on Tuesday, Gerard Depardieu was convicted by a Paris court on charges of sexually assaulting two women working on the set of a film in which he was starring in 2021. He received a suspended sentence of 18 months, but his name will be added to the National Sex Offender Registry.
I'm gonna take a guess. Gerard Depardieu is 81 years old.
76.
Okay, close enough. Um, he has been a very, very big, if not one of the biggest stars in France for 4 or 5 decades. Do you think Sarah Heppola, who's on the case, is he being made an example of?
For sure.
Okay,
And also, it's got the Harvey Weinstein thing of being past his prime. We can make him an example now that he's really not the juggernaut that he was once.
yeah, yeah.
He's a has been.
Can we, if you don't mind, can you go into a little bit of the detail about what the accusations were, who the accusers were, and let's hash this out, see how we feel about. Let's be the judge of this,
Let's be the
Sarah.
judge.
Let's be the
Hey,
judge.
ding ding ding. This is a new game. It's called Let's Be the Judge. We can get theme music
Yes, we will.
and
Let's get it.
flashing lights.
We'll get Eli on that.
So before we start on that, which I think is a great idea, I just want to say that in addition to that conviction, he also has to pay damages of about $17,000 to one of the two victims
Okay.
and about 14,000 euros, whatever that is, including her medical fees to the other one. So there's
Medical
recompense in
fees.
addition.
Okay.
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 So both of these women worked on a movie called Les Volets Verts. It was a 2021 film. It was starring Gerard, and one of them, who goes by the name Amelie, is a set decorator. So this is hitting so close to home now,
My
mama
daughter,
of a set
who's
decorator.
in the next room right now. Yes.
And the other plaintiff who has not wanted to identify herself, and she was the assistant director. Okay, so let's start with Amelie.
Okay.
Depardieu grabbed her by the waist, pulled her toward him one day on set while he was sitting down. Then he locked her between his legs and ran his hands over her buttocks, genitals, and breasts while muttering obscenities, she testified. Okay, so
Uh,
that's the
uh,
first one.
okay. I'm just going to step in for 1 second, if you don't mind. Okay. So, as the mother of a set decorator, she's here filming right now. Um, of course, it depends whether it's a TV show and there's a lot of locations, or if it's just a small movie and there's one location. But the set decorator is usually not on the set. okay? They've created what it's gonna look like, but they're not the person standing there. So, the first thing to me is like, why was the set decorator standing next to the star? It can
Ah, blaming
happen.
the victim, I see.
No, no,
I
no, no.
see. No,
I'm
no, no,
asking.
no. It's a classic Nancy Rolliman move.
I'm sort of just, like, trying to get the lay of the land. It's sort of like if you'd said
Costume
to me,
designer.
well, even the costume designer probably would have an assistant there doing the thing. He or she would not be the person. So, okay, so first it's just like, okay, whatever. I don't know how this production works, but the set director happens to be there. Now, there are also going to be other people there, probably dozens of other people there. So I'm just curious about, there was enough time for what really is sort of sexual assault. I mean, if you're getting your genitals grabbed, you're being assaulted,
Mhm.
and this is just happening in front of the entire set. Like he said he's sitting. She said he's sitting on the set, right? This isn't in a dressing room. This isn't someplace else in a trailer. She's on the set. So this is clearly happening in front of 3 dozen people. Now, of course, couldn't be like that. Maybe everybody else went to lunch. And for some reason, she stood there next to him, which would make no
Yeah.
sense. But maybe they were friends. Happens, right?
It sounds like something you do when you're really drunk. So I don't know if he drinks on set, but he is a notorious booze hound.
Okay.
Um, I don't know if it was this one or the other one, but at one point he said something like, "It's so hot in here, I can't get hard." And
Gee,
the
was that part of the script?
no, and that's what they're referring to when they say like muttering obscenities. And when this was brought up in
Oh,
court, he was like, "It was a joke. That's how I talk." Um, at one point, uh Depardieu said that, you know, he feels like he's from a different generation and
he
his
is.
flamboyant, bombastic, and unapologetic personality was ill suited for the current era. Um,
All true.
okay, second case.
Okay.
Assistant director who is now 34.
Okay. She would be on the set.
Yes.
Definitely.
She testified that the actor had touched her breasts and buttocks on 3 occasions on the set in Paris.
Um, I mean, we've had these conversations before about when people get old and they sort of lose their sense of what is okay. I've seen old people do things that were like really gross because it's sort of like little kids. Like little kids pick their nose and eat it, right? They're not thinking about it. Haven't gotten to the point where they have that awareness. And old people sort of sometimes in my experience, they kind of get that way too. They revert to just being sort of ugh.
Well, one open question that this New York Times story doesn't answer is the mention of medical fees. That one of these women had medical
Oh,
fees associated with
oh,
this. And that is, when you hear that, you're like, that kind of ramps everything up a little bit, but it's a mystery why there were medical fees. Now, if I were to just place a best guess, it's the one whose genitals was grabbed and she was so freaked out that she ended up either having later problems or, wanting some sort of checkup or something like that.
oh,
I don't know.
or therapy.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. Um so in court, Depardieu said, he didn't know what a sexual assault was and he was saying that it must be more serious than just putting a hand on a woman's buttocks. Now, that's a really interesting point, and one that I've heard expressed by many men over the years, whether they wanted to say that on Twitter or not.
Uh,
That the definition of sexual assault has become far more broad than an
Absolutely.
earlier generation either understood or really accepts.
100%. I mean, I can't tell you how many guys have patted me on the butt, whatever, you're in a bar. "Oh, yeah, I don't know, you're walking past and somebody, like,
You have a cute
grazes
little
their
butt,
hand."
though. Don't you
Yeah, well,
think your butt was kinda asking for it?
it
Nobody ever
winked.
pats me on the
It
butt.
winked at someone. No, if you had asked me, I mean,
I guess they
do
do
I
sometimes.
consider someone patting me on the butt sexual assault? I don't. I don't see that as sexual assault. So I can understand. I mean, I'm not saying I'm I'm in Depardieu's camp here because I don't know what happened, but patting someone on the butt, if even if you'd asked me like 20 years ago or even now, is that sexual assault? I'll say, eh, it's really it's bad behavior, and you shouldn't do it.
I always
I
liked the term sex pest when the
sex
kids came up
pest,
with that because I thought
exactly.
that was really useful.
Exactly. There's a real difference. I think also, someone, and we've talked about this a lot, someone who claims sexual assault or says or feels she's been or he's been sexually assaulted, if they got patted on the butt, we know much more violent assaults happen. And, I find I do think you have to look at things and say there's a difference between being raped and having someone pat you on the butt. I know that that's what has become an unpopular position
Mhm.
because, it's not up to Nancy Rommelman what people feel and how violated they feel. But I think even under the law, we do have different
Yeah.
punishments for that sort of between sex pestery
Mhm.
and rape.
Well, one thing I wanna say about this later one, which is grabbing the breasts and buttocks, but it's 3 times on
Yeah.
set, and I
Yeah.
have to say, I feel like I could blow off 1 time,
Yeah.
and 2 times I'm like, "No, seriously, buddy." But the 3rd time, I'm pissed, and it's it's embarrassing, and it puts her in a terrible position as somebody who is having to navigate this with the big star that's really not just big in name, but big in size, and
Huge.
everybody's watching.
Well, but okay. So, I mean, look, I don't know what kind of set this is that everybody would just be like, "Oh, let's watch the assistant director get, groped." I don't
Yeah, it's a good
I
point.
I don't think so. And so also ADs in my experience are very, very loud. They're the assistant director. They're the person that has to play the bad guy. The director has to be the auteur over there looking at the camera.
They
The AD
wrangle people.
they do, then "Get over here," and they're like the ADs I've worked with have been, like, the biggest hard asses, like, you don't wanna get on their bad
Yeah,
side. I was gonna
you're
say on
right.
their backside. You don't wanna get on their bad side. They are always pretty much on the set, that is true. Um, I mean, if I were in her position, first of all, I might have, like the first time would have been like, "Ugh, this dude, just old dude, like, forget it. I'm gonna keep out of his way,"
Me
right?
too.
Right? I'm gonna keep out of his grasp. And it happened again. I probably would get in their face, but totally would go above. I'd go to the producer and say, "You gotta keep this fucking guy's hands off me. Like, I'm
Absolutely.
not here. I'm not paid for this." And maybe she
And
did.
and we don't know. We
Yeah.
don't know whether she did,
Yeah.
what she did. That part of the story is not shared.
Well, wouldn't there
Somebody
be, like, witnesses or something? I mean, that's what I'm wondering. If you're having a court case, they had to have had witnesses, unless he's still so powerful in people's minds that they don't wanna go up. They don't wanna be seen as being someone that would go up against the marquee name.
or like in the assistant director's case, like what if it happened in his dressing room because her job is to wrangle him from his trailer and he's sitting there drinking and he's like, come here, have a drink with me." I mean, we don't know.
She probably wouldn't be the one, but she might be the one to get him from his trailer. She'd
Okay.
send a PA, but whatever, whatever.
So this is an interesting twist in this story that I had never heard before. So Depardieu's lawyer was really a hardliner. He was very intense and he hit at these women pretty hard. And some of the things he said in court was that they were driven by greed. He loudly interrupted the court dozens of times, shouting that the plaintiff's two female lawyers were abject, stupid, and hysterical, and denounced the trial as Stalinist. And he called both of the plaintiffs liars, saying one had never been a real victim. And during one cross examination, he ended it by saying, "We don't believe you." And the court ruled that the women had suffered secondary victimization from his conduct during the trial. And
Y
it said that the right to defense did not legitimize, quote, outrageous words and humiliation, end quote. And so, included in the damages, the court awarded them €1,000 for secondary victimization.
Good, he sounds like a dick. I mean, that also I'm sorry, lawyers can be awful, but that you don't shout at someone else's lawyers that they're being hysterical? Fuck you. Do
Yeah,
your
I just
job.
never
Do
heard that before.
your
That's a new
job,
one.
man. That's I mean, you can defend your client for sure, and he should, and he must. But that's just schoolyard crap. Good. I'm glad he got dinged.
He was like, "Vibe shift. I can talk any way I want. It's Trump's America." Oh, wait. Wait a
They're
second.
5 years behind us, as you said, as you started this pod. It's their 2020, right?
All right.
Okay.
Girl,
Oh god,
are
where
you
we go?
sitting down?
I'm sitting down. I gotta
Are you
say,
strapped in? Are you ready to go to court with Sean P. Diddy Combs?
because I knew yesterday, because you forewarned me like a good, loving podcast partner should, I read one article somewhere, I don't even remember, and I was like, "God, I need 7 showers right now." I mean,
That's how much it turned you on.
oh,
You
no.
wanted a
Oh,
shower with P. Diddy.
oh,
You wanted a freak
no.
off.
Ew. Oh, Sarah, gee, I gotta go. I'm calling this podcast off. Forget it. No.
Well, Nancy, you and I are
Uh,
gonna play Let's Be the Judge.
Go.
All right.